So picking up where we left off, we have our roof section here. Let me turn thin lines on so we can see that. We have our roof with 4-inch EPDM minimum, 4-inch rigid insulation with an EPDM over it. So we want to show this with tapered insulation that would slope to an internal roof drain. So let's go to our roof plan. And in our roof plan, we've created this roof, and this entire piece of roof drains to a central roof drain somewhere around here. So the first thing we need to do is sort of figure out where that approximate location of that roof drain. And a great way to do that is to use reference planes. So we're going to go to the Architecture tab, all the way over here in Work Plane. We click Reference Plane, and I'm just going to draw a horizontal reference plane and then a vertical reference plane. Then I can grab my dimension tool, going from the inside of the parapet to those reference planes. I can set up a dimension string and then equalize it. Let's see, why did that not equalize? Oh, because I don't have this going to the edge where I wanted it to. Now I can equalize it, and it places that work plane half the distance. So I'm going to do that with the vertical one as well, only that one I'm going to go from here to there, equalize. I can delete these. I can even unconstrain this because this is just a reference plane. I'm not going to move it around anymore. So if you think about this roof plane, it wants to slope from each of the four sides towards this center line. So you're basically going to have large triangles that slope towards that center point. So to do that with a roof form, we can select that roof, and up here is your context ribbon. And what we can do is we could add what's called a split line. It adds a linear, as it says right there, it adds a linear edges for reshaping the selected roof or floor geometry. And it even shows sort of a quick video of creating a roof drain. So we click Add Split Line. We get into this sort of mode where we see these green handles, and we are going to hover over that intersection and draw diagonal lines out to the corners. Now make sure you zoom in a little bit to make sure that you get to that exact point. It's easy to miss those. And we're going to do that from there to here. This one we are going to go here to here. Okay. I can hit escape twice to exit that mode. And you can see now we have this shape here, but we haven't really changed anything. We've just added split lines. So if we look at this in 3D, we have some lines there, but they're not actually, the roof is still flat. Now the next thing that we want to do is change the elevation of these exterior points so that they are higher than our midpoint, which is where our roof drain is going to be. Our roof drain is in the center. Our roof type has a 4-inch minimum insulation. That's sort of the minimum we need to meet, let's say energy code. So it needs to slope up from that point, so that these points need to be higher than the midpoint. For the purposes of the drawing, we don't need to be exact, so we can sort of round a lot of these numbers. So to start, I'm going to measure. And I'm going to measure the distance from here to here, which is 23 feet, let's call it 23 feet 4. And then I'm going to measure from the center out to here, so vertically, and that's roughly 20 feet 5. So this is the longer dimension of the two, which means that we're going to have more slope here. And our slope is minimum 1/4 inch per foot. We can go above that, and if we go with our worst case scenario, which in this case is the 23 feet 4, we know if we slope this by that much, this piece will slope even more than 1/4 inch per foot because it doesn't have as long of a run. So if we take the 23 feet 4, so that's 23 feet times 12 plus 4 inches, that's 280 inches. If you divide that by 12, you get 23.33 feet. And if we multiply that by 0.25, which is a quarter inch, so quarter inch per foot, we get roughly 5.8 inches. We're going to round that up to 6 inches. Again, you can be higher than quarter inch per foot, but you can't be lower. So again, we don't have to get exact here. We just need to get some sort of representation that close enough for the tapered insulation. So if that's going up 6 inches, we want these points at the outside face to be 6 inches higher than the middle point. So if we select that roof form again, now we go up to modify sub-elements, and now we can click on these corner handles and it gives us an elevation. 0 is simply the regular height of the roof. So that would be like the regular roof, 4 inches of insulation with, that quarter inch of EPDM on top. So all we have to do is change that from 0 to be 6 inches. So we're going to go around here. You have to click on the dot and then click on the elevation to edit it. And you'll notice it starts throwing in these other lines as you modify this. Now this one here is halfway in between, so right now it's at 0. We can't have that point be 6, or we can't have it be 0 because it would slope down to here and then this would be flat. So we want it somewhere between. It's not quite halfway. I'll probably make this, again, I'm sort of winging it here. Let me get back into that command. I'm going to make this 3.5 inches. So it'll slope down to 3.5 here and then slope down to 0 here. Now we're done. And if we look at a 3D view, it's kind of hard to tell, but that roof is indeed sloping down to that center point. And if we go back to our section, we now see that we have tapered insulation here. There's a slight problem though. There's this big gap between here and the roof because this is at 6 inches now, and the default thickness for this insulation is 4 inches. So what we need to do is we need to go back into our roof type. So we're going to select that, edit type, edit the structure, and this rigid insulation here that's 4 inches, if we simply check this variable box here, hit OK, hit OK, it now allows that thickness to vary depending upon that shape that we built in there, and now we have our tapered insulation in this roof section. Now, that comes to the question, or illustrates the question, how much do you model, how much do you draw? That was a lot of work to try to just get this slight taper of insulation here. Sometimes you want to go ahead and do that if you want to really understand how this roof works. Other times you might not want to get that complicated. What we're going to do for the patio deck here is I'm just opening up my crop region so I can see all the way to the center of this piece. I can simply set this up with a hatch region, or sorry, a region, a filled region. So what I can do here is I could use detail lines that I erase later. Usually that's not great practice, so I'm going to start off with another reference plane. I'm going to just draw a vertical reference plane, dimension it again from the inside face of the parapet to this point here, equalize it, delete my dimension, unconstrain it. Now I can draw a line. I'll just draw a detail line, DL, from the slab up my 4 inches, which is my minimum insulation, because my roof drain again is going to be somewhere in the center here. Then, just like I was drawing a roof in CAD, I can come over 1 foot and come up 1/4 inch, and then come back to my beginning point, and there is my 1/4 inch per foot slope. I can modify, trim, extend to this point, this line. So now I have some detail lines that show me, and I can delete the ones I don't need. I can even delete this reference line. I don't need that anymore. Here's my tapered insulation on my patio. I can bring my crop box all the way back to where I need it to be, and I can simply come back to this line, go to my annotate ribbon, filled region. If I don't have a well, ortho crosshatch is close, but we're gonna edit type, duplicate, call this rigid insulation, change my foreground fill. There should be one, yeah, insulation rigid, and then simply trace over that shape. And again, I use invisible lines, so the edges of my insulation are invisible. Now, in previous sections I've shown how, that invisible line has thickness, and it kind of masks some things that we don't want it to. One way that you can get around that is when you select a detail item like this, you can use this menu to send it to the back, and it's kind of like draw order in, and you know what, it's not working, probably because it's still, this only works on 2D elements, so that didn't work. So it can only send it behind another 2D element, not behind the 3D elements, which it currently is touching. So I can just adjust this line so that I'm not cropping out anything else. And there is another way to do the tapered insulation without having to model it all. Okay, so that gives you several additional tools that should enable you to complete this series of section drawings. Most of these drawings are very similar to the foundation sections and details that we did previously this semester, where you're going to be drawing detail lines, modifying some of these 3D objects with sweeps, and adding detail items as well to complete these sections.